Good evening, everyone. I am Gagan Kumar, President of Indian Lawyer Association. Today, we are having a webinar on a very interesting topic. Uh, Lately, there has been a focus among the high net worth individuals to look at European residency. And one of the most attractive jurisdiction, which is very popular amongst the high net worth individual, is Greece. To talk more about the prospect of investing in Greece and how we can benefit from the Greek golden visa, which is being touted by the Greek government as one of the most lucrative scheme. How we as Indians are going to be benefited. To talk about all these issues, we have Miss Irini Nousia. Uh, she is Greek and is settled in UK, and she would take us through the competitive scheme in Europe, which is called Greek Golden Visa. Welcome, Irini. Welcome to this webinar, and thanks for sparing time. We would like to know more about this Greek Golden Visa, and if you can share your presentation, that would be really helpful. We will have certain follow-up questions, which we will take up after your presentation is over. Over to you, Irini.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Gagan. Thank you for the introduction. And thank you for introducing me to your association. And it will be lovely to have the opportunity to talk to you a bit more about the Greek Golden Visa. So I will start first with some facts about the country, because I think it's important to understand a bit the country and how it works. The capital is Athens. The population of Greece is around 11 million. Almost half of the population lives in the capital. It has a huge coastline. I think it's well known for its islands, Greece. So 15,000 kilometers of coastline for a very small country. Greece has been a member of EU since 1981. It was one of the first members, and a member of Eurozone since 2000 and Schengen Zone member since 2001. The currency is euro. It's a parliamentary republic and the oldest democracy. Also, the climate is very mild throughout the year. And we do have seasons in Greece, but still the winter is mild and the summer can get warmer up to 30, 35 degrees. But throughout the year in general, it's a very good climate. I have 6,000 islands, impossible to visit all of them. Some interesting facts again about the country, very important. It's in the top 3 safest countries in the world. Greece gives free access to public hospitals and public education to its residents. And it has a very high rate of literacy at 97.7%. Lots of beaches and marinas, 45 airports, which is a lot for the size of the country, and 25 international schools, which range from British, American, German, French, with annual fees among the lowest in Europe, between 7,000 and 13,000 euros a year. Some interesting facts about Athens in particular. It is the oldest capital in Europe and one of the oldest cities in the world, with a history of 3,400 years. It hosted the first Olympics in 776 before Christ, and the first modern Olympics in 1896. Acropolis is the symbol of Athens, is goddess Athena, which symbolizes the birth of civilization. Athens accepts more than 4 times its population in tourists every year, 18 million tourists a year. It's a sunny city with 270 days of sun a year and over 60 kilometers of coastline around Athens. So even for people who wish to buy a property in Athens, they have a lot of beaches around Athens. Tourism is one of Greece's main industries and very relevant to the Greek Golden Visa because the properties can be rented for these purposes. And that's why I think it's important to understand a bit about the numbers. 2019 was the record year for Greece. It received 38 million tourists. 2020, in the midst of the pandemic, Greece still received 8 million tourists and was the fifth in the world. 2021, again, the pandemic wasn't really over. It increased by 50% at 12 million tourists, and it was voted the second best destination in Europe. And it is considered one of the top destinations by many different organizations or magazines. Tourism contributes to the GDP of the country 25%. So as I said, it's one of the main industries in Greece. Some things about the economy. Greece has a government that is very pro-foreign investment. The growth of the GDP in 2021 was 8.3%. It was the fourth highest in Europe. And while the average European GDP growth for that year was 5.4%. According to the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, the economy in 2022 rebounded 6.7%. And at the moment, Greece has a 12-year low unemployment rate at 11.6%. And actually, I believe here there is also a big opportunity for business by importing labor and creating that sort of business here. As we said, the government very keen for foreign investment. So the direct foreign investment doubled in 2021 from the year before, and it was 5.3 billion euros. Again, going back to tourism, 2022, we don't have the final numbers, but between June and August, the receipts were indicating that the country was back to the 2019 historical peak. And finally, the credit rating of Greece by Standard & Poor's has increased to BB plus in 2022. So the country is in good shape and is doing very well. The real estate market, again, as we are moving towards more the Greek Golden Visa, which is property related, in 2022, we had 34% increase of real estate transactions. The rents have grown a lot, 17% in 22. The prices, again, they grew a lot, especially for new developments that we will elaborate a bit more. The increase was between 20 and 30% in 2022 of the prices. We had a very big increase in the number of properties in Athens, 71%. Of course, before that was also the pandemic, so there were not many properties coming up on the market. And 57% increase of the construction permits. So there's a lot of construction happening at the moment. Just briefly, as I mentioned, we highly recommend newer apartments, especially in Athens, new developments rather than secondhand, because they do increase faster in price. And that is because the capital has a lot of old stock. And as the country becomes more affluent, both local and international investors are looking more for new developments, whereabout they have better design, they have better safety regulations, they have lower maintenance costs, and they're easier to rent. Now, let's go and talk a bit more about the Golden Visa in particular. As Gagan said, it's the most competitive and one of the most popular programs in Europe. It has the lowest level of investment of 250,000 euros in real estate, which gives the investor a permanent residency, which is renewable every 5 years, as long as the investor is holding the property. Again, a very important point that I think no other visa scheme offers, it is granted to 3 generations. So basically, if one of you was investing in a property, 250,000 euros, he will get the resident permit, the spouse will get the permanent residence, the parents will get the permanent residency, the parents of the spouse will get it as well, and the children below 21, which actually can go up to 23 if they're dependent. There's no minimum stay requirement. It's a very rapid procedure. It takes around 2 months. The property can be rented, and as we already discussed, the yields are quite good, and we'll see a bit more about it. And one can invest in any type of property. It can be residential, it can be commercial, it can be a plot of land. And what effectively gives the investor is, apart from a permanent residency in Greece, free travel access to all the Schengen countries. So they can travel up to 3 months, every 6 months, and they don't have to go through Greece. So they can travel directly to any country they wish to go in Schengen area. Just briefly, the type of nationalities that at the moment we have here investing in the visa, Chinese are number 1. They are the number 1 immigration clients anyway. Number 2 was Russia. Of course, that was before the restrictions. Turkish, Lebanon, Egyptians, Americans, and of course, a lot of different other countries as well. We haven't had yet a lot of investment from India, and that's where I see the opportunity, because I don't think the scheme is as yet known to India, and hence you haven't received a lot of interest from India as yet. Again, as you said, the most affordable in Europe. Greece is 250, Cyprus 300, Portugal and Spain 500, to show you a few of them. Key advantages. The property prices in Greece are still among the lowest in Europe. So there is a lot of room for capital appreciation, and hence is a very good investment. It's a good rental investment because of the tourism and the Airbnb industry. Greece is located very, very conveniently, geographically, between Europe and Asia. And that allows easy traveling, but also for the work from home model that we are all much more accustomed to now. It facilitates working across 3 time zones within a working day. Greece has a very good healthcare and education system available for free to its residents. The Mediterranean diet is considered one of the healthiest in the world. Good weather around the year. And Greece had an amazing success story with COVID-19. It recovered quickly, and it attracted a lot of actually people during the pandemic, non-Greeks, who decided to live and work from Greece because of how safe it was. The rental yields, just to give you an idea of what we are talking about, here is a chart of high-end properties of Greek islands, which are above 5%. The chart shows destinations across the Mediterranean. So as you can see, the first 4 are Greek islands, with Mykonos leading at 7.4% gross yield. And there are a lot of many more destinations across the map, which are Greek islands. Athens is around 4% gross yield. So, in a nutshell, the investor invests 250,000 in real estate. It becomes a European resident, gets the golden visa, can rent the property and get the rental income. Why use Golden Van? We've been operating for 16 years in the UK, and for the last year and a half in Greece. Golden Van has a strong partnered network of Greek law firms that actually have processed most of the resident permit applications with 100% success rate. And in fact, they're also advising the government on the scheme. It has a strong partner network of local developers with expertise in developing properties for Golden Visa purposes. Golden Van has also a big network of landlords, real estate agents, and local banks. And we can offer full management and letting service after the acquisition through our local partners. And effectively, we offer a 360 service, a single point of contact. The application process for the Golden Visa, it's quite simple. The investor identifies the property, it can be remotely, appoints a Greek law firm to assist with obtaining a tax number and opening a Greek bank account, which is not necessary, but we recommend it. Once the contracts on the property are signed and executed, it takes a week maybe for the land registration. And when this process is complete, the Greek law firm will file for the resident application. At that point, a temporary permit is issued, and the applicant, from that point, with this temporary permit, can have access to the country without any other visa. And then it takes up to 8 weeks to obtain the residency, at which point the applicant has to come in Greece to give his biometric information and receive the residence permit. So again, in a nutshell, the investor reserves a home, whether they come to Greece or remotely. If it's remotely, they sign a POA, a power of attorney, at the Greek consulate of their country or with a notary in their own country. And then the local lawyer does all the acquisition process and all the resident permit application. And when the temporary resident permit is issued, the applicant can fly to Greece. It gives him a year basically to fly in Greece to give his or her biometric data and get the RP card. Bank account could also be opened remotely, but we don't recommend it because it's not as easy, especially with today's regulations and requirements. Costs, I think for a lot of people, that's a very important information. And I think it's also where it can become interesting for you in particular as well. In terms of the acquisition costs, assuming a property of 250,000, we have the legal fees, which include drafting the power of attorney, do the legal due diligence of the property, drafting the preliminary deposit agreement, and supervising the drafting of the final purchase contract, signing the agreement, submitting the Golden Visa application. It's 7,000, including a VAT, and that's irrespective actually of the value of the property and the number of the applicants. And this is among the cheapest in Europe. We have actually a comparable table I can share if you want at some point, and it stays among the cheapest in Europe. The notary fees for the contract and the land registration are around 1.75%, and the transfer tax, again, among the cheapest in Europe at 3.09%. So we're talking about an acquisition cost of 19,100 euros. Now, the resident permit cost. The legal firms, so the law firms we are using, offer an optional service, which I think is quite necessary for the client, where they can issue the tax identification number on behalf of the client, assist with the bank account opening, collect all the documents and translate them, collect and deliver the resident permit. And they charge 5,000 euros for this service. And actually here, I think, is where you could also possibly build an additional fee, a professional fee for your clients if you wish, because really with the acquisition and this service, we are offering basically a 360 service to the client. On top of that, Golden Van is not charging the client anyway. We are receiving fees from the developers, and we're happy to share fees with you as well. So not only you can get a fee from Golden Van, but you could possibly add up to this fee for your involvement and coordination. The government fee for the main applicant is 2,000 euros and 16 euros. This is repayable every 5 years when the permit is being renewed. Any other member is 166, and any minors are only 16 euros. Also, one of the requirements is to have a medical insurance for every applicant, and that is around 200 euros. So again, is around 7,500 additional fees. Around, I would say 10%, as you can see, more than the value of the property is the acquisition and the resident permit fees. Again, a bit of understanding about all the property related taxes, again, very, very low for European standards. Acquisition or transfer tax at 3.09%. The ownership tax, which depends on the size of the property, condition, location, but just to give you an indication, for a 3-bedroom flat in the center of Athens is around 500 euros per annum, which is very low. The owner of a property in Greece has to pay income tax on the rental income received here. It's between 15 and 35%. It goes above 45% when the income is 35,000 euros, but that's not the case usually when you're talking about the golden visa properties. And finally, inheritance tax, capital gains tax is 0 at the moment. There's a provision that it will be implemented at the end of 2024, but at the moment it's 0. And inheritance tax, again, it ranges between 0 and 40%. But for what we are talking right now, for a first degree relative, and for a value below 300,000, which is what we are talking about, is 1%. And if you go between 300 and 600, it's 5%. So again, it's very low for like European standards. Now, before going to some questions and answers, Q&As, it's very important to inform you of the new law. The new law was actually implemented at the end of last year. And it will be in effect from 1st of May 2023. And what applies according to the new law is that if any investor pays a deposit of 10% until the end of April, they can complete by the end of the year with the existing regime, so 250,000 euros for the property acquisition. The investor has the right to change the property on which they put a deposit on, and still remain under the old regime as long as they complete the purchase by the end of the year. Now, what happens after 1st of May, and if the investor hasn't put a deposit of 10%, it is that some areas in Athens and some of the islands have increased their minimum to 500,000. But to be honest with you, these areas were already priced at that level almost. So it's not a real change. It's the north, central, and south sectors of Athens, Thessaloniki, and some of the islands, including Mykonos and Santorini. While Piraeus and the western suburbs of Athens remained at 250. Also, under the new regime, if an investor invests 500,000, cannot buy multiple properties that the total value is 500,000. While with the old regime, and if one acquires a property of 250,000, it doesn't have to be one property. There can be more properties as long as the total value is 250,000. And the final point, which is not actually related to the Greek Golden Visa, but I think it might be quite interesting for law firms that are dealing with tax, is that there is a non-dom scheme that was introduced in Greece in 2019. It's not known to anybody, but I think it's very appealing and it's very similar to the one that the UK used to have. And that allows individuals who invest a minimum of 500,000, either in real estate or business or legal entities, to transfer their tax residence in Greece. And by doing that, they benefit from 100,000 annual flat tax rate on their worldwide income, as long as they come from a country that Greece has a double tax treaty with. And these are 57 countries. India is one of them anyway. So that's what I had to share with you, and I'm at your disposal for any questions you might have.
Thanks, Arini. That's very helpful. I have noted down many questions, and I'm sure our participants would be asking few more questions. So I'll first ask my doubts, and then I'll take up the participants' question. So you said that the property can be used for tourism, and it would be a good business decision as well if one were to just buy the property and put it on Airbnb. Uh, so is that possible that I need not come and live in Greece? I just buy the property and still get the permanent residency?
Correct. So basically, there is no requirement for the investor to spend any number of days in Greece at any time. Also,
Okay.
it doesn't have to even be residential. It can be commercial. It still
Oh.
qualifies. It can be a
Oh.
plot of land. It still qualifies. So there's no requirement for the investor to stay in Greece or have a residential property. As long as they invest 250,000 in any type of property, they qualify. Then they can do whatever they want to do with the property. Rent it out or keep it like empty. But I think it's a pity not to rent it out, because at the moment the yields are very good for European standards, and there's a lot of demand. I think we are losing Gagan.
Yeah.
But,
So I'm back. I'm back. Okay. So it sounds too good to be true. So basically, what you're, if I'm understanding it correctly, that even if I buy a commercial property or a plot of land, I would get the permanent residency and I would be entitled to free health and education. Is that correct?
That's correct. And not only that, again, I said it before, but I will repeat because it's important. It's 3 generations as well. So you can make the investment. Let's assume you did it. You get the resident permit and all the benefits that come from it. Your spouse gets it. Your parents get it. Your spouse's parents get it. And your children, both your children and your spouse's children, if she had children previously, they qualify if they're 21 years and below. And as I said, in some cases, it can even be extended to 23 if they're still dependent. So it's very inclusive, it's 3 generational, and you don't have to spend any day in Greece.
Great. Now that leads me to the next question. You indicated that the rentals have gone up by roughly 17% in the past 1 year.
Correct.
Correct. And what is the appreciation in the real estate prices over the last 1 year?
It's between 20 and 30%, and in particular for the new developments, which have better capital appreciation. So it's it ranges between 20 and 30%, and that's for Athens, because actually the islands and islands like Mykonos and Santorini, which are very exclusive and addressed to high net worth individuals, might have appreciated even more.
Great. So that leads me to my next question. You talked about the new apartment and old apartment. Can you briefly explain the difference and how does it impact the scheme?
The scheme is not impacted whether it is an old building or a new building. Anything is allowed. However, we highly recommend new developments because one, as you said, they have better capital appreciation, but also they have better design, they have better regulations for safety, they have lower maintenance costs, and also it's easier to rent. So I think it's a much better investment decision, if you wish, to buy a new development rather than an old stock in an old building.
Gagansa, are you there connected?
I think we might have lost him for a while.
Yeah. So Erini, there is one question in the chat box. Can I just
Okay.
ask it to you?
Of course.
Yeah. So Mr. Deepak Jumani is here with us. He's asking that, do I have to pay taxes in my country if I purchase a property of 2.5 thousand euros and become a tax resident of Greece and not stay in Greece?
Now, just to clarify, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Jumani, for the question. There are two different things, the Greek Golden Visa and the tax residency. So if we are talking about the Greek Golden Visa, this does not give you a tax residency in Greece. It doesn't affect at all the investor's tax residency. Now, if you are talking about the scheme we briefly described at the end, which is the non-dom tax scheme, first of all, that requires an investment of 500,000 euros. And whether you will have to pay taxes in your own country will depend on the tax system of your own country. So I cannot reply this question because it will totally depend on the rules and regulations of the country the investor is coming from. But that has nothing to do with the Greek Golden Visa. I don't want to get you confused. The Greek Golden Visa is not a tax scheme at all. And the investor doesn't change tax residency through the Golden Visa route. Is that clear, Mr. Jumani?
Understood. Mr. Deepak, would you want to add anything or have further questions on this? You may unmute or put them in the chat box. Gagansa, yeah, back to you.
Yeah. So no, I had something similar because what the impression I got is that under the new regime, there is a possibility that if I invest 500,000 euro, then I may be able to shift the tax residency of my legal entity as well. Is that correct, Erini?
Of course, but again, I don't want to confuse you. And the only reason I mentioned this non-dom scheme is because I think it can be relevant to some of your clients. The one doesn't lead to the other. The one, the minimum investment for the non-dom scheme is 500,000, but you might not choose to become it. You might just invest 500,000 and just get the golden visa. The decision to become a tax resident in Greece and be charged here for your worldwide income is a different decision. Then you go through a different route. So the golden visa on its own doesn't lead there.
Okay, so let me put it like this. So if assuming I comply with the rules and I end up getting my legal entity's residency shifted to Greece, would that also entitle me to be a permanent residency of Greece? I'm saying that my legal entity's tax residency changes, but would
Yes.
that automatically grant me the permanent residency?
Of course, you have to go through the application process, but yes.
So if I were to invest 500,000 through my legal entity, I would be able to, subject to the other conditions, I would be able to change my tax residency of my legal entity and personally I will be eligible for permanent residency, thereby getting all the social security benefit and the other benefit which comes with the scheme.
You're talking about investing through a legal entity, right?
Yes, if I want to
Correct.
invest through my legal entity.
So if you invest through your legal entity, if it's the golden visa, to qualify as a shareholder of the legal entity, you have to be the sole shareholder. So that's number one. So, and that's for the golden visa. With regards to the non-tom scheme, I believe you have to invest in your personal name, and it's a personal, it's addressed to high net worth individuals and not to the entities, it's to the people, to the individuals.
Okay.
So if personally you want to become a Greek resident, not your company to become a Greek resident.
Okay. So basically, for individual it is different, and for legal entities it would be different.
But for the golden visa part,
Yes.
you can still go through, I'm not talking about the tax scheme now, you can still go through the using a legal entity if you wish. So the legal entity buys the property if for any reason you wish to do that. And if you are the sole shareholder of the entity, you still have all the benefits, you and your spouse and your kids, as if you were buying in your own name.
Okay. Now, for my sake of understanding, yeah, please ask. Yeah, please go
Erini,
ahead,
this
Mr.
is Mr. Jumani again.
Hello,
If
hi.
it is just for the visa and travel to Schengen country, which anyway I already have a Schengen multiple entry visa for 3 years, which allows me to stay for 90 days anywhere in Schengen countries whenever I want to. So what is the advantage of investing in Greece so much money just for this visa?
There
I
are two.
think before Erini jumps in, I think my understanding, Mr. Jumani, is that you would be entitled to the other benefits regarding free health and free education.
It's very right. And there are, I would say, two things. One is through this scheme, of course, is that your family gets this permanent, Schengen visa. It's not just you, it will be your parents and everybody, which again, you can say they can all apply and get it anyway. I think the main benefit and why this scheme is used, and a lot of these schemes, not just the Greek one, is what we call Plan B. For a lot of people, what it is important is to have also a Plan B. And Plan B means if something happens to their country, to be able to go and live forever in another country. So once you have the resident permit, it's not that you just have a Schengen visa, you also have a permanent residence in Greece. And again, as Gagan said, that also entitles you to all of the benefits of being a Greek resident, have access to the health system, to the education system, etc., etc. So, for example, at the moment, we are talking a lot to people from South Africa, to give you an example. And a lot of people there, because of the situation, especially in countries with political and economic instability, they want to have a Plan B. The same is with Chinese. That's why Chinese are buying this product. They want a Plan B. If something goes wrong to their country, they want to have that easy, not just access, but the ability to live with their whole family and be able to go to school, their kids go to school, and etc., which might not sound as relevant to India. But for example, I know from our clients, especially the high net worth ones, they are trying to live daily because of the pollution and live in another country. So Greece offers that sort of opportunity through the scheme. If somebody wants to live in another country and they can fly back and forth for their business, it's a country they can live in after they get the resident permit and use all the benefits of the country, including establishing a business in Greece. It doesn't allow you, Golden Visa doesn't allow you to be an employee in Greece, but you can set up your own business here. Sorry, is that clear, Mr. Jumani?
Yeah, also one more thing I wanted to know. Do you need to know the source of the revenue source of the money which we send to you, it should be from my own country or from anywhere else? Would you like to know that, or is it not required?
Formally they say that it's needed to know a bit about the source of wealth of the client, but to be honest, nobody's really checking it. But what is important, it is the money, it can come from any country, but it has to come from the name of the applicant. It cannot come from a company or a trust, etc. It has to come from the name of the applicant to Greece.
If it is somebody's child whom he wants to sponsor, stay there.
First degree relatives as well.
So say if I want to transfer it to my son, it's my money, but it may not be, it's not in my country, but it's somewhere else, where I would send it to Greece and give him a residency there.
Yeah,
Is it
that's
possible?
first degree family. It has to come, to be precise, from either the main applicant or a first degree family member.
Which includes the father, mother, right?
Correct. First, yeah, correct.
Okay. Okay.
And to be honest, in some cases, I mean, and that's for the transfer, and thank you for clarifying it. Because if you get it anyway, your kids will get it anyway. But sometimes, in order to move it one generation down the line, especially if the kids are quite old or they're approximately 21, then a lot of the applicants send it directly to their kids, and the kids are the main applicants, and they get it by benefit of being the parents of the child.
Okay.
So one more thing, Erini, you said that it has to be renewed every 5 years. So would that mean that every 5 year I will have to bring in fresh capital of 500,000 euros, or it's just one time investment?
It's one time. The only thing that has to be paid is the government fee, which is 2,016 euros for the main applicant and 166 for the other euros for the other applicants. But in order to be renewed, it's a prerequisite that the investor has to hold the property. And it doesn't have to be the same property originally acquired. So for example, we had clients that they bought one property, got the resident permit, 2 years later, because of the capital appreciation, sold the property, but before selling, they bought another property just a few days before, and then made the profit, and they continue having the resident permit. So as long as you hold the property at the time of renewal, then you qualify.
Erini, one more question. Does knowing Greece help there, or is there any advantage in the fee structure, or any job there, or getting any other permissions if you know Greece very well? Is there an advantage?
I missed the beginning of the question, if you don't mind repeating.
Any advantage of knowing the Greek language, of acquiring all these advantages? Any advantage, or any benefit?
I would say, of course, in any country, if you speak the local language, it's always better than not, of course. But Greece, because of tourism, the Greek people speak English very well. Actually, they speak 2 to 3 languages because of tourism being the main industry of the country. So nobody will have ever a problem living and running a business in the country by speaking English.
So even if we can apply for a job there once we get into this process?
It's the applicant or the owner of the resident permit can set up a business in the country, but he cannot become an employee.
Okay.
So you cannot work for a company. You can be the CEO of a company, that's quite high up, or run your own business, but you cannot come and work. It's not a work permit, basically.
Yeah, so there is a question in the chat box, which is on the same lines. I think you just answered that question. So it says that with this golden visa, can someone be allowed to work, or can he start their profession?
Yeah, again, you're right. It's been answered, but to clarify, the golden visa, it's not a work permit. The applicant or any other member of the family cannot become an employee in the country, but they can set up their own business in the country and run the business here. And there are a lot of opportunities. I know now we kind of we touched only about on the Greek golden visa, but the government, as I said, is very pro foreign investment. So there are a lot of incentives for businesses to set up in Greece, ranging from the film industry, like Bollywood could be one of them. There are a lot of like tax incentives there, and also specific sectors like green energy, tourism, production, manufacturing, have a lot of subsidies or what they call strategic investments. I was last week at the government introducing a client who wants to make a strategic investment, which means that it's more than 20 million. And there are a lot of incentives, basically. But that's not within the golden visa. It's something that once somebody wants to do that, there are further incentives and subsidies, you know, and grants from the government.
One more question, Erini, and I think after that we may be able to conclude our webinar today. You spoke about inheritance tax being leviable from 0 to 40%. Can you throw some more light about it, that how would that come into play and at what stage?
That is, of course, in the unfortunate event, if somebody or the owner of the property dies, the property will go at the state, you know, of course, of the owner. But there are certain countries, for example, that they don't have inheritance tax. However, in Greece, like the UK, in the UK is similar, but it's 40%. For any Greek assets, like this property, you will have to pay, or the descendants will have to pay inheritance tax on this property only. But if the property is below 300,000, let's say, the first degree relatives, that will be the kids or whoever inherits, will have to pay 1%. If it's between 300,000 and 600,000, let's say on the next level of 500, then it's 5%. So it's still quite low. Like in the UK, it's 40%, sorry, across the board. Any property somebody owns in the UK, if they die, I mean, their relatives will have to pay 40% inheritance tax on this asset, and it will be on the value of the asset at the day of the death.
All right. Thank you, and thanks a lot, Erini. I think we have been able to understand fairly well now why we should come to Greece, and if whosoever would be willing to come, I'm sure you will be the first port of call.
With pleasure,
Madhura, are there any follow-up questions, or can we conclude the event?
Yes, we can conclude the event.
Thanks, Erini, and look forward to your visit. I understand you are coming next week, and you'll be in India for about week 10 days. So those of us who are today live on the panel, as well as those who may watch it later, Erini would be in India. She'll be in Delhi, followed by Mumbai for the next 10 days, starting 15th of February. And if anyone wishes to get in touch with her, her details have been shared. You can find out from the website of Golden Ven as well. And she's very prompt in responding. Thank you everyone for taking the time out and joining us today. Thanks, Erini. Thanks, Madhura. Look forward to see you.
Thank you very much, Gagan, and thank you, Madhura, for helping organizing that, and thank you everybody for taking this time to listen to me and for your questions. And as Gagan said, I will be in India, and anybody who wants to talk further and also touch upon more about, as I said, the ways that you can also have an incentive in, you know, introducing clients as well, which we didn't touch in great detail today, please let me know, and I will be very happy to meet up. Thanks again.
Thank you,
Thank
Harini.
you.
Thank you, Gagan. Thank you, Madhura.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.